Hello, fellow baggers, and welcome back to Bluebaggers Edge. Well, it's the end of the first business week of trading for the trade period, and we saw a whole lot of moves on our end, and they all came thick and fast, which I really didn't expect. First up, we had news filter through early in the day that Corey Durden was seeking a trade back home to his native South Australia, and a tweet that we'd be executing a trade for Ben Ainsworth. Next minute, Ben Ainsworth is made a blue, whilst Durden is suddenly in Port colours with the official trade, a three-way between us, Port and Gold Coast, with us receiving Ainsworth from Gold Coast and pick 67 from Port, whilst giving up Durden and our 2026 second round pick. Port received that 2026 second rounder along with Durden, and Gold Coast received pick 29 from Port, if that makes sense. So a simple way to look at it is we swapped Durden for pick 67, whilst giving up our 2026 second rounder for Ainsworth. Personally, I think we paid around about on par with what Ainsworth is worth, pardon the pun, as I think it'd be around about pick 26 in an otherwise uncompromised draft. So somewhere around about that 30 mark, I think is probably fair for what Ainsworth provides with his repertoire, his resume, and what he can provide for the Baggers in navy blue. So let's detail a little background on the former Gold Coast Sun. He comes having been selected at pick 4 back in the 2016 draft, selected straight after Hugh McCluggage and before the likes of Will Setterfield, Sam Petrevski-Seton, and Jack Scrimshaw. Operating primarily as a small forward with stints pushing up the ground, he's played 158 games for the Suns and kicked 137 goals. In 2025, he kicked 2+ goals on 7 occasions and kicked a total of 23-14 in 24 games, the second highest of his career behind kicking 25 back in 2022, and has been in the top 4 for the Suns goal kicking in each of his last 4 seasons. So done some fair work in front of the sticks. As per the write-up on our website, he is noted as having strong overhead ability, crafty, and possesses fantastic ground ball ability and impressive goal nous, kicking over a goal a game in his last 4 years, which is 85 goals from 84 games, while ranking 3rd at the Suns for goal assists this season, which is always a good thing. We like to have team players in our team, so fits the bill there. Now, Nick Austin, he spoke with excitement at his acquisition and said Ben fits the profile of a player we have been going after this trade period in both age and experience, with Ben to complement our emerging small forward group. Now, Nick Austin spoke with excitement about his acquisition and said Ben fits the profile of a player we have been going after this trade period in both age and experience, with Ben to complement our emerging small forward group. His impact in the forward half speaks for itself. He's dynamic and exciting, smart around goals, and with a natural forward craft, who has shown a consistent ability to play his role week in, week out over a long period of time. With a ground level ability that's a standout, his knack for finding space inside 50 and playing team first football, which is what we spoke about, makes him a great acquisition or addition to our forward group. So in losing a small forward in Durden, it kind of made total sense as to why we were targeting Ainsworth as a replacement, like for like. And above that, it provides us further depth, but also competition, more importantly, to put the likes of Motlop, Matt White, Fogarty and co on notice and elevate our competitive spirit and environment competitively internally. As for Durden, personally, I was always a fan of his, but I know he had a lot of detractors out there in the supporter base. And yes, his body largely let him down, but when he was played up the ground as a high half forward, he showed incredible promise. There was a game there against West Coast back in, 2024 it would have been, late in the season, and looked really, really good. And I thought this role will persist because his speed, his ability of two-way running was just, a big, big plus. And I know he kind of copped an injury the week later, and, that was the end of the season. And then come this year, it just didn't really come together all that well. So it's a bit of a shame for me anyway, personally, because I was a fan of Durds, probably more so than the likes of a Motlop, but, you can't pick and choose the players that stick around at your team. And, if you wanted to go back home, all power to him. And so I am wishing him all the best as he heads across to Port and hope that he makes a career of it. I remember when we drafted him, he was highly rated and, showed us, as I said, great promise, but all the very best to you, Durds. And the second of our trade dealings saw us do a relatively straightforward swap of pick 41 for 22-year-old Campbell Chesser from West Coast, which I think is great value considering Chesser's promising finish to 2025, displaying incredible speed and impressive ball use as a winger. Having been drafted at pick 14 in the 2021 draft, Chesser played 36 games in total for the Eagles and will bring much-needed speed to our side. He battled largely with injuries that limited his continuity and growth all over in his game, but his strong final month of this season showed signs of him taking his game to another level and speaking to why he was selected at pick 14 back in 2021. Now, Nick Austin noted, "We are so pleased to have attracted Campbell to Icon Park. The club is very optimistic about the future of Campbell at Carlton, overcoming an ankle injury late in the year. The form he displayed at the end of the season showed us he has the quality and class to perform at the elite level. With explosive speed and endurance, his outside run is a clear standout in his game, with the ability to quickly transition to both ends of the ground, all traits that will perfectly complement our side. We think he will have a lot to learn from our established midfield group, led by our leaders Patrick Cripps and Sam Walsh, and we look forward to seeing them take Campbell under the wing, and he gets to work from day one of pre-season." Now, I am just speaking on these two guys in totality. I am excited by both of these acquisitions, and I think they will both contend for spots in our best 22 from round one. As I said, competition is always a good thing, and really, I think both of these guys could be lining up in their respective positions. Chesser on the wing and Ainsworth up forward as a small forward. As for further news surrounding the last of the players that we've been openly targeting in Buku Khamis, it would seem the Dogs are haggling over the value of him and maybe the trade that is dragged right into the last few days of the trade period. But expect, I think, pick 54 may get that deal done, potentially along with a later 2027 pick at a pinch, considering that we kind of have to hoard the amount of 2026 draft points or the draft value index that we need to match bids on Cody Walker. But I have a bit of an inkling as well that I expect us to perhaps try and split pick 10 with a late first round pick and an early second rounder to help match bids on Harry Dean and Jack Eisen. So perhaps that second rounder could be part of the Buku trade with a pick coming back our way as well. We'll wait and see on that. And in terms of a quick update on Charlie, well, Chris Davies echoed what we said in our most recent video on the Geelong offer for CURNOW being massive unders, and I thought it was disrespectful, really. And they were virtually second rounders disguised as late first rounders, or at least that's what Andrew Mackey was trying to say. This is what Chris Davies had to say.
Importantly, the club's position has been that we don't want Charlie to be leaving Carlton, and so from that standpoint, that's the first thing that we should all be aware of here. I think the second part of this conversation is understanding what 3 first-round picks might actually look like, and for Geelong, those 3 picks are effectively going to be picks in the 20s. So if that's what the offer ends up being, notwithstanding the fact that we don't want Charlie to go no matter what, I'm not sure anyone would think that that's a reasonable deal for who Charlie CURNOW is.
And I really love that, no bullshit honesty from Davies here. I wouldn't think that, thinking back to Brad Lloyd, I don't think he would have that, that edge to him to come out and be as emphatic as that. Really stern and to the point, and really highlighting that we're not going to settle for any offer. We're only going to be entertaining the suitable offer that truly, values Charlie's true value. He was also emphatic, Chris Davies, that it is on the interested parties in Sydney and Geelong to come to the party with a suitable offer to blow us away before we shift our stance.
Okay, so acknowledging you want Charlie to stay, but if, and it is a big if, as you say, if he is to depart, is it fair to say Carlton's asking price at the moment does revolve around a high caliber player coming back to you, not numbers on a page?
Yeah, I mean, what has been clear from day one is that we're not going to be in a position where we're having to suggest to other clubs what we think Charlie's worth. We want Charlie to stay. So, I'm not going to get into what I think Charlie's worth other than saying that we want him to be at Carlton. We value him highly. We value him far more than what some other people are suggesting around the competition he's worth. And from here on in, our position will remain that we want Charlie to stay.
But most interestingly, though, he believes the relationship between Charlie and the club can be mended easily. So that's the first time I think I've heard that from anyone at Carlton. Apart from the fact that they've said that they want to keep Charlie, I think this is a really big point. Obviously, there's a breakdown in relationship. A lot of, speculation is around it being related to Charlie and Michael Voss. But as I said in the previous video, Voss is entering his last season of his contract. If we don't make finals or have a successful season, in all likelihood that Voss will not be extended in his contract. So off the back of that, who knows? Does Charlie stay for beyond that 2026 season if Voss is not there? Maybe. So we don't necessarily want to be plotting the downfall of Michael Voss because that means we haven't had a good season. But really, it does make you think. Is there a misunderstanding there? We just don't know the full details, but it stirs up the conjecture and rumour file off the back of that. Now, Andrew Mackie of Geelong also confirmed that a secondary offer hasn't been put on the table to Carlton, and they can't offer much more, which is fair enough. Hence the reason why they came forward with their only, first round draft picks across the next 3 drafts. So he said they're happy to go to the draft if required. And really, I encourage them to do just that, as they are unwilling to. He said, and they've said all along, that they're not going to include a player in any dealings for Charlie, more than likely. So, if you're not willing to give up quality to get quality, well, I'm sorry, that's a stumbling block. That's an impasse that you can't overcome. So that's pretty much dead and buried, I think, with when it comes to Geelong and their ambitions to try and get Charlie to their club. Also, just noting a bit of an update on McGovern and Elijah Hollands. Chris Davies said that there hasn't been much rival interest in either player, and suggested the pair could potentially remain at Carlton, but was non-committal on that. And in relation to Butters, he gave a few words and played a bit of a straight bat, saying that he expects, no doubt, every Victorian club to be asking the question about Butters if he remains unsigned beyond 2026. Well, we can dream, can't we? That would be the day. That'll be right up there with Chris Judd coming to the club. Well, that's it for another trade wrap. Don't forget, of course, to subscribe if you haven't already to help us on our pursuit towards 1K by the end of the trade and draft period. And we thank you ever so kindly in advance. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below about the acquisition of both Ainsworth and Chesser. And with that, we'll be back once more with the latest news and moves as they happen. So until next time, we'll see you then. Go Baggers.